Right, okay. So let's start with a really basic question, right? What is street art? Now, art at its most basic form is essentially communication. It's a medium to get a thought across. So anytime an expression of this sort that is made by an artist exists in the public realm, it can be called street art. What happens is that we're conditioned to think that this is street art, or this is street art, but we can't really limit it to that. So this customized truck is also street art. This rangoli design, it's on the street, so yes, even this is street art. And this kind of faded, hand-painted sign, it's an advertisement, but this is also street art. Okay. Now let's look at the canvas. Okay. As native residents of a city, we will always look at ours very differently. We have this perception that is highly dependent on how we interact with the spaces that we occupy in the city. So these notions are very important. Now, a simple example would be like in Pune, when we think of city, we think of old and crowded. When we think of Deccan Gymkhana, we think of greenery and trees. And when we think of Koregaon Park, we think of party. That's it. Nothing else, nothing more. We don't care about anything else, right? So these are these visual associations that we have. And along with these visual associations in Pune, we also have this strong sense of identity when it comes to culture. We're very proud of our music festivals and of our literature and of our theater. Now, if you take all of this into consideration, we found out that Pune was like absent in the public art sphere. And our question was always why? Why is it so absent? So 2 years ago, we had this question that was it ignorance? Was it apathy? Like, did we not care enough? Or was it some misplaced attitude? You talk about the Punekar attitude all the time. And we tried to figure it out. So we started painting 2 years back, and this is what we had, right? Now these are huge walls, okay? The context is really amorphous. And what happened is that even at this scale, okay, the paintings remained really disconnected from the city. They got a very tepid response. Sometimes it was even confused, like people didn't know how to react to it. And so we wanted to question what went wrong. What we realized was that the walls were wrong, We have these public walls in Pune that you would ignore no matter what you put on them. It's like you don't have enough time to pay attention to these walls. So the walls were completely wrong. So this year we decided to go for it once again, and we changed our approach. It had to be different. What we wanted to do this year was try and understand the connections that exist between the urban built environment and us, the people that occupy it and use it and interface with it. So that was the idea. What we did was we invited artists, not only from Pune, from elsewhere also. So the local artists were students and young graduates and people like me who are from allied fields but not necessarily artists. The visiting artists came from all over the place. Like there were Indian cities like Bangalore and Delhi and Mumbai, and then there were people that came in from Australia, the US, Russia, Germany. So all of them came together. The area in Pune that we picked was Kasba Pet. Now, Kasba is one of the oldest areas of the city. So contextually for us, it was the most complex area we could begin with. The culture, the history, the architecture. It was this really vibrant kind of place for us to start. Now, all of the artists were given this one simple brief, 5 words. It was live, explore, experience, respond, and then represent. Right? What we got, the output, is what I'm going to show you now. So this is Mithun. Now this was done by Amitabh Kumar, who is a Bangalore-based artist. This is right across the Pune Municipal Corporation building. It's on a giant retaining wall. Okay, the crocodile, is grinning cheekily at the new development of the city across the river, while it kind of safeguards the old establishment back. And the context was that if the river levels rise, he may go for a swim. Right? Temple Within You was by Krilly Moonsnail. Now, she's an Australian artist, and her interpretation was that the world that we experience outside actually happens within us first. Right? So if we are not happy with it, if we want to change something, then if we just change our thoughts, we would realize that, we are co-creating our experience of the world itself. So that was her representation. This is by this Russian crew called Vitai Vyatsi. It's a duo, it's two people, it's called Got Used To. They wanted to show this really intimate journey that they had through the bylanes of Kasbah. So what they did was they took this really sculptural element, and this is their trademark style, and it occupies most of the space. And then the two artists have represented themselves sitting on top of the sculpture, just soaking in Kasbah, because this was such an alien environment for them. They're from Moscow, so you can imagine the contrast. Right? This is Antara. This is by Indrajit Satbhai. That's me. Right? My attempt was to kind of explore the complex relationship that we have with public toilets. These are really functional buildings. They're absolutely essential, but we actively try to ignore them. Like when we go past, no, it's not there. And so there is this gap between the function and the perception of this building. So this infinity, this window into infinity, was a representation of that gap where you really don't know. It's really undefined space. Catastrophe was by MXD. It's a group of artists. This was a representation of those tiny things that we kind of tend to miss in our day-to-day life. We just rush past them. So the alley in which this was done was full of pet cats and pet pigeons, because there were a lot of fishmongers living there. And this was an interaction that they saw daily. But till the time it was put up on a wall, I don't think they realized it as much as the artist did. So it was a very fun piece. Symphony Orchestra was a piece by Boris Stefanov. Now he is a very established Russian artist. What he chose to do is that he took their trademark mascot, which is a dwarf, and he arranged them in an entire orchestra: strings, sound, bass, everything. And the repetitive style kind of brought mass, because this wall is huge, okay? And also because of the conductor standing right below the word Saharsha, which means joy, they kind of took that joyful context of the Marathi text and added it to their piece. So it was an interesting amalgamation in response to the site itself. Badam Tree is by Anpu, who's a Delhi-based artist. Her response here was to challenge the perceived notions of the pace at which street art takes place. You think of street art, you think of really fast work. But she juxtaposed that with the changing colors of an actual badam tree that she saw. And so by putting this tree in this highly concretized area of the Kasbah, she wanted to question our notion of the passage of time itself. Right? Now, this is just part of the artworks. Along with this, we had this really amazing interaction with our city itself. Okay? So Miles Toland is an artist from the US who was painting this work on a wall, when suddenly the owner of the wall showed up and stopped him. He was like, no, you can't paint here. And we were confused because we had permission. Now it turns out some random person on the street had just given us permission to paint the wall. He's like, you can paint here, it's not a problem. And that doesn't really work. So obviously Miles was confused, he was upset, and he was packing up. And when he was doing that, a gentleman just walked up and says, hey, I live like 4 buildings down and you can use my wall. So he volunteered his wall, which is when Miles finished this work. Right? Now when he finished this work, he was given a coconut and a flower. Right? Now for us Indians, that's a very traditional way of thanks. Right? But Miles had absolutely no idea what was going on. So when we were at a different location, he walked to us with a coconut in hand and a flower on his ear. And we asked him, what was that? And he's like, no, they just gave this to me, so I thought I'd put it. And that is how he was for the half the day. Right? So it's very interesting when you talk about context. Okay? Now, Note is a German artist, right? And his work is titled Atomic Cucumber. Yes, really odd. But when he was painting it, some people got really interested and they asked us what was going on. So when we explained what was going on, they said, so you've created the IPL of art. And we're like, what does that mean? Well, they say, you know how in the Premier League, the foreign players come, the Indian players come, they play together, they interact, and they get better? That's what you've done for art. And that was a very interesting kind of viewpoint. It's something that we never thought of, that you could compare such a commercial venture to street art. Okay? Now, repeatedly, no matter what the interaction was, no matter where we were, we got one request. And it was, can you paint Shivaji? Okay, that's just something that is Pune, right? So we had to do it, okay? So this is done in the miniature style, and it's the largest Shivaji mural in the city right now. It's right across Shanwar Road. Okay, so contextually also the location was very strong. Okay, now all of this is really nice. Okay, but I'm sure the question is, right, how do you do this? Like, where does the finances come from? Well, it comes from me, and it comes from you, and it comes from everyone in this city, you know, who wants to give back. It's really innate, this sense that you want to contribute, right? So when we started out, it was more or less self-funded. Yes, we had help, but it wasn't really enough. And then as the artwork started getting along, more and more people came in, and they were like, what can we do? What can we do? So some people chose to buy us paint, right? Some people, including the local politicians, made sure that we had permissions for any wall that we chose, right? Most of the houses that we painted on, the occupants made sure that the artists were fed, okay? And sometimes they were fed too much, to a point where they couldn't work anymore. That happens, right? A builder friend of ours offered to set up scaffolding completely free. He did not expect anything in return, no advertisement for his projects, nothing. He just set it up, okay? Other friends pitched in for the artist's accommodation, or they brought in equipment to document, which is why we have such a nice presentation. So it came down to the fact that we want to contribute. We want to make this city our own. We want to make it better, and this became a platform for that. Okay, that's the beauty of this, that we are completely open-ended, and everyone is always welcome. So we have a video now, a small video of what the process was like. Let's hope you enjoyed.
Yeah, but I'm taking a video.
Right. So in conclusion, if there's anything to take away from this, it is that if you feel that you want to be a part of the social, the cultural fabric of your city, if you want to change how people look at it, how people experience it, there's a simple method. You know, grab a brush, grab some paint, and get out there. Thank you.